Welcome to Some Joyful Noises, a music podcast with no rhyme, no rhythm, and no reason. This show is a proud part of the Anazal Podcast Network. I'm Joshua Knoll. I am the producer of this show. I say producer and not host because this show has no host. It has no schedule, and it has no format. If you would like to lead one of the conversations and create your own episode of Some Joyful Noises, you can do so. Listen to the end of this show to hear more about how you too can help us make some joyful noises.
Hey guys, welcome to Some Joyful Noises. This is an Anazal podcast, experimental music podcast dumping ground thing, where some of the leaders from our network and really whoever just jump on when we want to talk about music, host an episode, and we just kind of do it. This is a music podcast with no rhyme, rhythm, or reason whatsoever. We're just staying noisy. Literally, anybody can host the show. There's no schedule for the show. We just kind of do stuff when we feel like it. And if you guys feel like it, and you message us, hey, can I do an episode about Jesus loves all the little children? I'll probably be like, yeah, sure, man. Let's see how that goes.
Camp songs, favorite camp songs. That'd be fun.
Yeah. You know, whatever. I'm thinking about doing a pirate song one soon, actually.
So not surprised.
Literally no rhyme or rhythm. We just do stuff. And today, the stuff we're doing. I am Joshua Knoll, one of the people leading the conversation for the day, here with my pastor, Will Rose, reviewing the song Citizens by Jon Guerra, which I forgot to make sure I'm saying his name right. It's fine. It's going to be less of a review. We're not the most knowledgeable people about Jon Guerra. I don't even know how to say his name. You know, I'm not a music expert or anything like that. Just to be transparent, really what this was is like every now and then, I don't listen to a lot of Christian music. I used to, because that's all I was allowed to, which is why I don't listen to as much now, because I'm allowed to listen to things that aren't Christian music. But every now and then one will stand out that hits me. And usually it sticks with me for like a few weeks. And I'm like, man, yeah, that really got to me, made me feel some kind of way, and it was useful. This one's been a lot longer than a few weeks now. It's been months. And every now and then, and it's funny because even after I told you, because this hasn't happened to me till after Will was like, yeah, we could do this episode together. There's been a few times where I'm like on the car on the way home and I just have this song on loop for a straight 45 minutes and I'm just crying in my car. And so that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah. There's a vibe. That's a vibe shift.
Yeah. This is how we're getting into this one, guys.
Yeah, let's
Ready
make
for
some
noise.
Tears. Joyful noise or
joyful noises lamenting. Of wailing, weeping, gnashing of teeth, lamenting
tears.
You know, I don't remember. What's funny is I don't remember the reference, but this used to be one of my favorite Bible verses. Where it's in. I think it's one of the minor prophets. It's one of the prophets. It's those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Yeah, I don't remember where that's at.
Amos? Could be.
Whatever it is. That's what we're doing today. We're going to be sowing in tears, hoping that one day we will reap in joy with our noises. This song, for those who don't know, it's very much a prophetic song. If you're sensitive and you want it to be woke, it's woke. If you're sensitive and want it to be conservative garbage, it could be. Based on some of the lyrics in the chorus, you could be like, oh, this is a literal reading of, or hey, man, this is a song coming from someone's heart who wants to believe Christianity. And sometimes Christians in America make it hard. So I think this is more of like a prophetic word, a lament of the current state of Christianity in America. Something I resonate with. So it won't be very knowledgeable. There are podcasts out there. The way I heard the song was from Russell Moore. He has a podcast episode with Jon Guerra. So if you want a podcast that's like going to give you the deets and really explain the song and have all information, maybe go there. That's not what this is going to be.
To that to figure out how they pronounce his name. You can listen to that, just for like to see how they. He pronounces his own name, and then you can come back here and hear us butcher it, and then talk about it.
Yeah. Well, then what you do, you rate and review our show on Good Pods, Podchaser, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and you leave a comment and say, hey, you guys didn't even pronounce the name right.
Right.
Just put that in the comment. Why not?
And you'll hear us say, go to the other podcast if you want that.
Yeah. And if you want to keep getting our episodes for some reason and you don't want to miss any, well, there's not a schedule. So you have to subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, to know when episodes are dropped because we don't even know when episodes are going to drop.
Oh, man,
it's on you.
The mystery is luring. I love it.
All right, so we're going to jump into this episode, Will. Usually we do some like banter thing, or like what are you listening to, whatever. I just feel like there's so much to talk about here, and it's really not even about the music. It just happens to be that these lyrics were delivered in a song.
Well, I think, just real fast, we talk about like why music is important is one of the questions that we ask on this particular podcast, is that there are sometimes words and feelings can only be expressed in kind of a theo-poetic way of kind of music and song. And so it's poetry. And so if you do interpret this song from one angle, that's your interpretation, just like a poem. And you could go to the source and say, what did you mean by this, the author of this song? Or I imagine most artists was like, well, what did it say to you? How did it speak to you? What did it stir up in your soul and your heart and your mind? And I think that's what this song has done and is doing with Joshua. And when he introduced it to me and I listened to it, it's definitely a prophetic word. And there's a reason people like musicals and Disney movies where all of a sudden they just bust out in song, because there's something going on in the story that makes them just express themselves in a way that can only be expressed in music, song, joyful noises, lament, theo-poetic way of expression out in the world. And we're creative creatures that sometimes needs that outlet and expression so that we can, feel human or articulate what's moving within us and how we're feeling in the world. And sometimes it makes us laugh. Sometimes it brings us joy. Sometimes it brings tears. And that's all biblical, because there's a whole book called Lamentations where they're shaking their fist at God, asking why, and crying and lamenting. And so, this song captures all that.
Yeah. Well, also, as we're getting to the meaning of this show, we also say a lot on here that like, music's what forms community. A few episodes I've pointed to, like Kingdom Hearts' fan base is like a really good example of that, because so much of it is about the music for the fans of that franchise. I think there are a lot of Christians, and I'm speculating here, so mind you, a lot of this episode will be speculating. For me, there's probably a lot of Christians that this song would be community forming, in the sense that there are a lot of people who feel like you grew up Christian. There's a lot of that story that you still cling to. You still like that Jesus guy, maybe. You still love a lot of the stuff of the faith, but then you see what's happening in the church and in America and all this stuff. And you're like, I don't know if I still want to be associated with it, but man, I still love Christianity. Mm-hmm. And you want some hope to cling to. I think this song is for the community of believers that find themselves kind of in that area.
Nice. Yeah. I love Jesus, but sometimes his followers, make me eye roll or get me upset, or the institution built around this figure of Jesus sometimes can be very disappointing. And I don't want to have anything to do with it, but the actual man himself, that first century Palestinian rabbi that was executed by the state. And why was he executed? Let's dive deep into his life and figure that out. And then the people that follow him or create the structure around him, sometimes those systems needs to fall and be questioned. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, and that's also part of why I'm glad my pastor is on here with me, because there's sometimes I'm going to lean on you to help me explain things. And sometimes it's I get emotional with this, and it's going to be helpful to have somebody else kind of lead parts. So you mentioned especially the song has kind of a prophetic word, kind of relates to like apocalyptic literature in the Bible, some of like the epistles, maybe even Lamentations. You want to just explain a little bit, like, how is that function similar to some of the things we see in those type of literature in the Bible?
Well, I think when we talk about prophecy, a prophetic word, it's not necessarily being a fortune teller or telling of the future. It's holding up a mirror to your present context and asking you to question what's going on, what's the reality around us, and how is God speaking in it? You're asking the question, where is God in all this? What is my place in all this? And so that prophetic word really holds up a mirror to society and says, take a deep, deep look and ask those questions. Who am I, and who is God, and how are we, if you get to say Kingdom Hearts, I get to say entangled. How are we entangled with one another in our community, and how we do how do we live as humans together in the world? And then apocalyptic literature, there's metaphor and imagery to really get to the kind of sci-fi imagery of the world, but really prophetic literature, that Greek word apocalypse literally means to reveal or unveil. And so this song and the literature and the scripture verses that are apocalyptic, they're unveiling for you a deeper reality that's underneath the surface or right there in front of you. So this song can be apocalyptic because it's unveiling a reality around us and speaking to that truth or speaking to a reality that we either resonate with or question. And then, I think Paul in the epistles, or whoever's writing a letter, they're speaking to the context. They're challenging. They're being pastoral, but they're also being apocalyptic in terms of like unveiling for them a present reality that they need to wake up to understand. If you want to be woke about it, let's get woke. Let's wake up. Wake up to your present. It's very Advent, very the season of Advent. Hey guys, don't sleep. Wake up. There's something going on in your midst that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah. I'm going to be lame and point everybody to an episode of the Whole Church podcast where me, you, Ryan Does, Leah Robinson, and TJ Blackwell talk about apocalyptic literature and sci-fi, horror, a bunch of stuff like that. And we have fun over there. So if you guys want to understand a little bit more on our take on apocalyptic literature, it's there. I also want to say, like, as far as, and we'll get into this later too, but how I don't know how to word this well. The theopraxy of your eschatology is going to be important here.
Ooh,
so how you apply your theology, and specifically with the end time stuff. So this all makes me think of two different things at once that I feel like is important to unpack before we get into it. One is the song, and I'm probably I'm going to get flack from the left on this side, but I still love some Casting Crowns. I still like them. I know that lead singer, I've heard some of the stuff that he said and wrote, and I'm like, man, I don't agree with his theology at all. And I think he's a good person. It happens, you know?
It happens.
And they have a song that I also think is kind of prophetic. And it was at a time when woke wasn't that like big buzzword. So they were able to do this and Christians liked it. And now we do the same song and people probably really mad. Their song of If We Are the Body. And that's what this song reminds me of a little bit of. Like, if we are the body, why aren't his hands healing? Why aren't his feet moving? Why aren't his lips speaking truth, helping people? That's what that whole song was about. It's like, why isn't the church doing something about what's happening in the world? And that's what this song is about. But now we're in a context where if you ask why we're not helping people, you're woke. But back then when that song came out, that's what conservatives wanted to say. So you kind of see that context of like, wait a minute, how have we gone so far in such a little period of time? And I think Casting Crowds would probably still sing that song. I think they would. And I think they still stand by that message. But I think a lot of their followers probably wouldn't. Probably why they don't still write new songs like that. Anyway, I'll leave that alone for a minute. The eschatology, theopraxy stuff that I was talking about. A lot of times people build their eschatology, their view of the end times, to kind of comfort them or to make it easier to believe their faith, I think. Where it's, one day I'll go to heaven if I do the right thing, say the magic catchphrase that I believe in Jesus, you know, whatever. And that's where my grandparents are, so I don't have to grieve them because they're up in heaven. Whether that's literally true or not, I honestly don't care. Maybe that makes me a bad Christian. I don't know. But I'm like, I just don't, to me, that's not the point. So I'm like, okay, cool, maybe. But the problem is, if that's the limit of your theopraxy, is just knowing that thing so it comforts you, then some of the song might not make sense. But if you expand it a little bit to, wait a minute, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is now. So it's both now and not yet. Then you hear parts of the song where it talks about building a city. And if you're doing this thing and you're not just thinking, oh, one day Jesus will give this to us and we'll be faced with it. You're realizing, oh, wait a minute, we're supposed to be building that city right now on earth. And that's going to kind of give the chorus a dual meaning where you're like, wait a minute, Jesus is doing that in the future. If you subscribe to that kind of ontology. I don't know if I do. I don't think I do. But I do hold to that other part of we're supposed to be building the kingdom of heaven right now. So he's also singing to us going, hey, if you're building that city, are you looking at the immigrants and calling them children? What are you doing? And that I think it makes it a little bit more challenging if you understand your theopraxy a little bit. differently, maybe.
Yeah, we say Christ is the Alpha and the Omega, but what do you do in between? The beginning and the end, but we're here in the now. So the Christ who was, who is, and will be, there's a balance when it comes to that. If we're only looking to the will be and we're just, pie in the sky at some point in the future, or we're dwelling on the past, we're not looking to see how we live in the moment, in the present, and who's our neighbor now. And I think that's part of the parables that Jesus was doing, his theopoetic story expression of parables, really stretching people and asking people, who is your neighbor? And it's like, oh man, I don't like the answer to that. But hey, is that person not the one who acted with mercy? Can't even, the lawyer couldn't even say the name, couldn't even say Samaritan. They had to just say what the action they did instead. So how do you look at your neighbor in the face, in your eyes, and say, yep, they're a child of God? And if that's woke, or if that's too liberal, or if that's challenging, how I think, we'll get into it. But I think there's a seduction of power and privilege, and we got to be, there's a means to an end. We got to hold on to this power, or get co-opted by this system or structure or particular person because of whatever. And we'll do better later. Once we're getting into power, then we'll do good. We got to get there first. Like, no, what about right now? The person who's hungry right now, the person who needs to belong right now.
Yeah. Which is also, maybe it's fair time now to warn everybody. I will almost definitely be going on one of my I hate utilitarian rants.
Yeah.
That whole, we just justify bad action because we think the outcome's worth it. It's just,
nope.
It's dumb and arrogant. It's mostly arrogant is why I have such a problem with it. You don't know the outcome ever. Anyway. Okay. What we're going to be doing for this song, it's going to be a little bit weird for everybody. Probably, especially maybe including me and Will. We're going to be sharing the verses of the song. I have 4 different versions of it. We're going to be flipping back and forth to play from. But when we get to the chorus changes each time. I think there's 4 different times. The first couple lines are different each time, and then the main part is the same. So when we get to the chorus, instead of listening to it and playing a clip, Will and I have a liturgical setup on our outline where I'm going to read a part, he's going to read a part. And when it gets to the main part of the chorus that is the same each time, we want you guys to read it with us. So if you need to listen to the song beforehand, pull up the lyrics, whatever you got to do, I think it's going to be worth it, because I think it's important that we work together to just affirm the message here that the church gives a damn, that Jesus gives a damn. And this song isn't explicit. It doesn't say give a damn. That's me. Like, I passionately, like, I care about this, and I'm looking at what the church is doing, and I'm like, man, sometimes it just feels pretty clear that we don't give a damn. So the part that is the same each time, that we will be reading together and asking our listeners to kind of say with us. We don't know that you're doing it. We're just going to trust that you're affirming this with us. And it starts with, I need to know there is justice. So it's, I need to know there is justice, that it will roll in abundance, that you're building a city where we arrive as immigrants, you call us citizens, and you welcome us as children home. That part we'll all read together. The parts before it that change each time, Will and I will kind of alternate on. It's going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about the chorus at the end and kind of unpack what that means to us. But for now, I kind of want to talk a little bit about I'm calling it the pre-chorus, the part of the chorus that changes each time. I want to talk about that now. So in this part, the artist states, he talks about some of his feelings. So this is, I want to talk about, he says he feels confused, he feels used, he feels angry, and he feels guilty. Will, how do we resonate with this stuff now?
Yeah, what I tell my congregation all the time is that you can feel multiple things at the same time. You don't have to be either or. So like if your loved one died and you're feeling grateful for them and also missing them and feeling deep grief and sorrow, you can feel both at the same time and not feel guilty. And this, confused, used, angry, guilty, all of those can kind of hang out together in the same room and they can have a conversation. Now, when one speaks up over the other or talks over the other person or the other feeling, then yeah, how do you work a healthy conversation conversation, but all those are real emotions that we can all feel at the same time. Now add another one, like there's fear. What are we scared of, and what's going to happen next? Like I resonate with all those, but then another thing that I resonate with is legit fear. Like when I see things how unfold on the news, or how particular brands of Christianity are acting out in the world or representing Christ, I'm fearful of the future or what's going to happen to those I really care about. But yeah, confused. What are they saying? Used. How are you co-opting my faith? I'm angry. I'm not going to let you do that. And then guilty that, perhaps I feel those same ways, or I've acted those ways in the past that I want to repent of. Had particular views that when 20-year-old Will or seminary Will said things out loud because he thought he was right on things and didn't care about the person right in front of him. It was more important to win an argument than see the humanity in the person across from me. I feel guilty about those too. So all those can hang out in the same room together.
Yeah. I part of this is really, and it's funny because I've tried to get us to record this at specific times, several different occasions. The Trump administration deported this guy. The Trump administration did this. I'm like, all right, well, now is a really poignant time to record this, and I think maybe it's just always a poignant time to talk about this song.
Every day.
The week we're recording this, I just discovered a church that I used to help occasionally that I've spoken out against before. It's now called Legacy Church. Was once College Park. It's in Greenville, South Carolina. Please avoid it. I'm not going to use names. I'll name the church because I think that as an organization, it's just not safe for people. And I think it's important to warn people to not go places that aren't safe.
Yeah.
I knew once they had a youth worker who was involved with a girl underage. It appears that something similar has happened recently. The youth worker who is married and just had a kid and has been involved over a year. It seems like they've been trying to keep it quiet, and now they're trying to open up. And part of me thinks that the way they're wording it and coming out, they're trying to get ahead of the message and not let out that it's a lot worse than it even sounds. And I've known that pastor for a huge chunk of my life, who's part of that church, who's leading them and has now hired 2 people like this. There's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of like putting my crime junkie hat on, and I'm like, oh, math ain't mathin'. This doesn't make sense. I'm like, but then I'm like, even more so the people who are hurt, not only the victims. I know the person who is guilty of some of the abuse, and that guy, I'm not going to say he's a good guy, but like they are naming him on their Facebook, on all their social media platforms. They just had a baby. Him, his whole family, their lives are ruined. And yes, it is partially his fault. But even when we cast the shadow ourselves, I don't know, man. It's just, the whole thing is just heartbreaking for me. Seeing the church cover this up, seeing this pastor who's told me before, he's like, it's all about the Spirit. The Bible's important, but as long as you're connected to the Spirit, he's going to let you know what to do. And I'm like, man, the Spirit isn't telling you to cover this up. The Spirit isn't telling you to keep hiring people like this, to let this go on in the church. And I think about it, and I'm like, these are the people who told me to live by Christian values, who always want to talk about, sexual ethics and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a little confused. I'm a little angry.
Yeah.
I'm a little sad. And, I helped that church. I voted for the same people they did for a long time. So yeah, I'm a little guilty. And the thing that to me that this song challenges me with, and I almost always start to tear up when he gets to coming to you because I'm guilty. It's because I'm right there with him the whole time. He's going through the song, and like he's clearly talking about Donald Trump, and I'm like, yeah, I'm so mad the Christians are backing this guy. And he's talking about like how they're not caring for the immigrants. I'm like, yeah, I'm so mad about that. Then he's like, come to you because I'm guilty. And I'm like, oh, that's right. When I was in college, I made a spectacle that I would not recycle. There are points in my life that I made sure people knew that I was going to vote against Democrats no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm still coming to you because I'm guilty too.
Well, a big part of the liturgy in our particular tradition is confession and forgiveness at the very beginning of the service. And so there's not only being angry and prophetic word of, oh, that person over there, that group over there, that system over there is wrong, but it's also looking in the mirror yourself and saying, I'm guilty. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I've backed things that I shouldn't have. I've said things I shouldn't have. I still feel things about other people that I shouldn't feel, or is dehumanizing dehumanizing towards them as much as it is they are dehumanizing others. So there's a reason we start our worship with confession and forgiveness, to be honest with ourselves, be honest with one another, and most importantly, honest with God. And that a repentant heart, part of that guilt, you turn it and confess it, and you stand in solidarity, not to your neighbor, but those around you who are feeling the same things, who's experiencing those same things.
Yeah. This is weird, but the TV series, and I hope we're going to do a systematic ecology episode about it soon, The Good Place, actually helps me a lot with some of this.
Absolutely.
Because I am the guy who's like, oh, wait a minute, I bought this soda, this company owns it, this guy did this, I supported him inadvertently, which also is why the Bible has stuff in like the Old Testament of like sacrifices for the sins you didn't know you commit, because like God cares about those too.
Known and unknown. Yeah.
It's just, it is challenging. And even for myself, like I think back in some of these people that are involved, I'm like, I remember telling them, hey, you need to repent. I don't know why, but the Spirit's telling me something's wrong here. But I also remember telling them, hey man, I'll fight for you till death if I need to, because I love you. And the thing is, and maybe this will get me canceled, even the predators, the victims, all of them, I love every person involved here so deeply that it. And what I keep thinking of is that's God at all of us. You know, like he sees the terrible things I do, and he's like, he's hurting, and he sees the people that I've hurt, and he hurts with them too. And that's confusing. It's confusing with you actually resonate with both sides. And you're like, man, I just want everyone to be, you know, there's I went to OrtCon not too long ago, and they talk about the difference of repetitive. That's not the right word. Insert word here in restorative justice. You know what I'm trying to say. Retributive. Yeah, that's not right. That's close. Yeah, something like that. In restorative justice. And I think I agree with both things. Mm-hmm. But I think God cares a little bit more about restorative justice, and that's why I still hurt for even the people who are the abusers. Where I'm like, man,
well, retribution.
I want you to be right with God.
Retribution, you would hope would lead to restore, but not always does. Sometimes just punishment, the punishment or revenge, those things. But what is it going to bring to a person to come to terms with what they've done within themselves, and then also restore the around them who they've hurt? And so that's a long process. That's not just like, oh, I forgive them, God forgives them, move on. You know, there's a reason why people are put in timeout. There's a reason why people you walk with people. We're also in a process of becoming, right? Some of our friends say at OrtCon will say. And so how do you, even the restorative justice has a process of hopefully you're leading to that way. Not that the means justify the ends, but there are ways in terms of habits and practices, including listening to songs and reading scripture that hopefully will change your heart and lead you to restorative justice. Yeah.
I'll be annoying and set up a debate that Will and I can have some other time. It's why I really loved Captain America Brave New World and didn't care for Thunderbolts this year. Brave New World, the bad guy takes accountability for what he did wrong and subjects himself to retributive means so that one day he can be restored. Whereas in Thunderbolts, we're going to skip the accountability part, the retribution. We're just going to straight go to restorative. I still like restorative. I don't know. Feels like a piece is missing. I don't like it.
But Thunderbolts, they ended with a hug, and that's so much better. So much better. So much better.
So anyway, this song was written.
Sometimes we just need a hug.
Let's get to part. So also in this part of the chorus that changes each time, he does some other stuff, but then just talk about feelings. He talks about why he's coming to God in prayer. So here's some of the reasons. I want to see if you can, if we affirm this in prayer, if we're like, maybe I'll tweak that a little bit, how we feel about it. He says he's coming to God in prayer to move in our country for the mothers who are afraid for their families, for the hungry in our streets, for the immigrants who are looking for homes, and ultimately because God promised to leave the flock for the one. Will, do we affirm all of that? Do we want to tweak any of it?
No, that's on point. You know, of course,
Yeah.
The mothers, the hungry, the immigrant looking for a home, but God promised to leave the 99 for the one. I mean, yeah, most of the time I'm the 99. And so how do I feel about going off to find the one? And I think what's going on in American politics, American Christianity, evangelical Christianity, who have co-opted and kind of sold out for Donald Trump because of they're seduced by power and privilege. I think they don't care about the one. They're like, I just want to be a part of the 99, and I want to make sure that we keep that one out. And that's just so opposed and the opposite of what Jesus represented, which is so frustrating and so confusing. It makes me so angry when you can't see. But I was there too at some point in my life. But what about that one? What about that one?
Yeah. I affirm all that. There's probably some stuff that I would add. I also, again, the thing is, like, are we praying to God to do something, or praying to God, acknowledging that we are the body, that what we're asking God to do is what we should be doing? I think the main thing I would add is probably a reference to the queer community. I even online, maybe with a bot, maybe with someone who doesn't understand English, I'm not sure. We had this conversation about transgender stuff, right? And they always have their points where, like, the Bible says he made them man and woman. And I'm like, well, what about all the people born with multiple sexual organs from different genders? And you usually get one or two things. It's like, well, that's the result of sin, to which my answer is, okay, so people are born transgender for the same reason then. What's the problem?
The Bible also doesn't mention giraffes, but yet we believe they exist. They're part of creation. It doesn't even mention the silent on giraffes.
They say like all create, but they'll be like, oh, well, that's such a minor thing. You're just pulling that out to win a point. To which, and I said this in this thing, the people who are born with sexual organs from both genders, percentage-wise, worldwide, there's just as many people born that way as there are people born with red hair. So if you are not willing to commit to the theological statement that you don't have to care about redheads, then you can accept that. If you're not willing to say that God doesn't care about redheads, you can't say the other, which makes all the transgender arguments also kind of invalid, because just because they're not outwardly showing the gender identity struggles doesn't mean that they're not real.
Yeah.
And I think that happens all across the board, where Christians just want to come up with some reason to argue and to attack these people. And it's not just Christians, but because of the Christians in our country, I think this has become not only a minority, but attacked a minority. So when I come to God in prayer, I'm also, hey, these people, whether they're Christian or not, the queer community who is so scared, what are we doing for them? How is God preparing for them, loving them? How are we as the body loving them in our country? Yeah.
Good question. We're going to sit with that a while. The church has been sitting with that a long time, even though, when perfume was spilt on Jesus, and they were like, we could have used that money for this or that, and they're arguing about how to use money and fund about what's going on. But the Jesus math, let's do some Jesus math. The last be first, the first be last, the 99 or the one, what's more important? I think, look at how Jesus did math, and that might be a little countercultural or against the grain of what we're chasing after in this world.
Yeah. All right. So then moving on, last thing before we get to the actual song. This song was written in 2020 during the pandemic and all of that. Will, how does this song still hold up? How does it resonate? Is it more relevant, less relevant than 2020? I didn't hear it in 2020, but just speculative. Do you think it would be more relevant if we first heard it then, or?
No, I think it's still, the words speak truth now, you think about 2020 and you think about those same elevated questions of how do we take care of our neighbor and love our neighbor, whether we're wearing a mask or supporting people with, searching after vaccines, or people really scared that their church is going to lose power and privilege because they can't meet or together in person, or they buy into conspiracy theories rather than listening to really smart scientists around them who are trying to help them and work these things out. But we're 4 years, 4 years of Trump, first term. Now we have Trump 2.0, where it's amped up another level. I think these questions of how to be the church, how do we love our neighbor, how are we the church in the world, how are we the body of Christ in the world are still relevant. And every generation has its challenges, and it seems like every political season we have our challenges. But man, there's a day. I mean, I think the ramped up rhetoric and othering and kind of the reality. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb here. A reality TV show star becomes president. They know what gets clicks and what gets reactions, and it's been ramped up another level. It's because they're playing a game. They're playing a game with our emotions and know how to do that with us. And so there's a reason reality TV show in terms of eliciting responses out of us, that now we have a president and a world leader who knows how to play with those. And so it's just as relevant now. But yeah, knowing it's in 2020 is like, man, this could have been written yesterday and put on the radio. But it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. The juxtaposition of how Donald Trump plays on these emotions is really telling. And for the record, obviously Jon Guerra is not running for president or anything. I'm just sitting here going, Trump saw that we were scared, confused, angry, and he played that up to people to get them to an action, to do something. And this song is kind of doing the same thing. It's getting us to do an action. The action is to give a crap about people, to give a damn, right? Whereas Trump was to, let's attack our enemies. This call is playing on that same emotions to say, let's love and care for the marginalized. What is that?
The one.
Yeah. I mean, it's big. I do think, just from my own generation's perspective, we didn't think about politics till really 2015, 2016, whenever Donald Trump first came to that elevator, and we were like, wait a minute, this seems scary. And then if the song would have been released in 2016, it would have been super relevant, because we were like, oh yeah, man, this is bad news. What's going to happen? And then we saw what happened. And in 2020, the pandemic hit. And that was like another breaking point for a lot of people, where they were like, oh, I don't know, if the church is supporting this is what they're okay with. The masks, not wanting to wear masks, willing to get people sick. People are dying around us. My own family members dying because they fall for this whole like, oh yeah, the government's doing this, and to be in church, we shouldn't have to wear a mask and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, now you're dead. I'm not playing that down, but it's like,
and it's interesting.
And now here we're doing it again, but now it's with Alligator Alcatraz. Now we're at like a comic book villain level where we're like, huh?
I've always said Batman
like
villain Bob Boss. What is the breaking point? And it's interesting to me that some of the MAGA folks are really starting to speak out against Trump because of the Epstein files. And that's the breaking point. I'm like, man, there's so many beforehand questions, but this is the one thing. And I'm not, disappointed in that. I'm glad that's finally like, wait a minute. Yeah, there's some smoke here around this fire. And you mentioned the disappointment of this particular church and community that you are a part of, where there's some similarities there in terms of predatory nature and taking advantage of the least fortunate and those underage. Well, there's another whole side thing. So that's what's, as we're recording this, that's the news, the headline, the breaking point, that there's some people on MAGA and evangelical Christianity. There's like, wait a minute, you said this, we feel betrayed. I'm like, yeah, we've been saying this a long time with other things. So,
yeah. Well, and that's the temptation, right? Like right now we can say, oh, we told you, how did you not see it before this, and get upset at them. Or I could go back to this song and realize, you know what? I bet they're going through right now. I bet they're realizing the person who told them he was going to out all of the stuff and be transparent isn't being transparent. They're probably a little confused about that, right? Mm-hmm. They probably feel like he used them, maybe. Mm-hmm. Just like I felt like the church used me once I started seeing what was going on, what the church was supporting. I'm like, maybe they don't believe this stuff, and I was confused, and I felt like they were using me. And I'm like, man, I have to realize a lot of people are feeling that thing about their politics right now, seeing their the God that they turned to. They started worshiping Trump, and now they're seeing, they're feeling the same feelings. And I don't know how to honor that. But one way might be to actually get through this song. But I'm going to play verse 1 of this song. I am using 4 different videos to play different verses from this. So I think verse 1 is just the regular recording with lyrics on the screen. And we're going to play verse 1. We're going to talk about it. And then afterwards, we'll get into some of that liturgical stuff that we mentioned earlier in the pod.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I can do this well. Probably not, but we're going to try.
I have a heart full of questions.
kept like circling around the exit window. Yeah, so that's verse 1, coming in strong. At first I was iffy, because for some reason when I hear even like Christians I respect, especially if they're like more educational people, scholarly people, they're like, oh yeah, this music guy, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. And then I started the song and I was like, I got through verse 1 and had to restart the first time I listened, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be actually meaningful. What about you? I feel like you listened to him a little bit more recently. How did verse 1 first hit you?
Yeah, I like the contemplative nature of the song. I think the pace and the vibe of the actual music fits with the lyrics and the questions that he's asking. If it was like screamo metal, I might be like, what? If it was like rap hip hop, if it was like really disco-y, I'd be like, what are we talking about? But I think I like the music connected with the lyrics, and he's got a good voice. So I like the style. I'm like you. I don't listen to a lot of Christian music on the radio or I do hymns on Sunday, and then I have regular quote unquote secular music that I do in the world in certain bands and stuff. But so this was nice to reflect on. And the first thing, what is the meaning of Christian? I was like, man, yeah, what a deep question that we should ask every single day. If you identify as Christian, then what does it mean to be that in the world? And there's so much entangled with that word and so much baggage, but man, it's a question we should reflect on and look in the mirror and ask every morning when we wake up and splash our face, remember our baptism.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to do this, but I like every line of this, especially verse 1, I think really starts strong. What is the meaning of Christian in this American life? Our theology is always contextualized, whether we acknowledge it or not, right? Like you just can't help it. And in the world where like I'm looking around and seeing all these people saying that they're Christian and what they're doing, and I'm like, well, I want to say I'm Christian because I like this Jesus guy in the Bible, but man, I don't want to identify with this group of people, man. Yeah. And then I've got a heart full of question. When I first hear that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I resonate with that. And it's like quieting my suggestions. And then I have to reflect on like, what does that mean? And I'm like, oh yeah, I do that too, where I'm like, okay, well, these people aren't really Christian. And then immediately I'm like, well, what does it actually mean to be Christian? And I'm like, okay, well, Jesus would have done this. And I'm, like I keep having all these thoughts of like what I think it should be or what could be and all this stuff. And immediately it's just all the questions. Cause like we just live in a world where I'm like, no, actually, it's not right to say that's not Christian, because people who are identifying that, like when they're looking at our religion saying, well, Christians do this, they're not wrong. So I'm like, man, I mean, even the end, like I'm feeling foolish spending my life on a message, wondering if I ever heard it right. I'm like, yeah, to me, I dedicated my whole life and I was part of that conservative Christian group, right? And I went to their colleges, learned all their stuff. And now I read the Bible for fun. Before a long time, I was reading it every month because I thought I had to, and I really dedicated myself to this. And I'm like, okay, we're going to tell people about God and Jesus. We're going to do stuff according to the Bible. And then the people who told me that was what my entire life's mission should be about are supporting a sex predator for president, are being hateful to their neighbors, are cursing out people in the streets, are causing violence in the White House. And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling awfully foolish. Yeah.
I'm with you. And then, it's like when people ask me, do you believe in God? And I'm like, well, what God are you talking about? Are you a Christian? Well, what kind of Christian are you talking about? There's a lot of if I just say, yeah, there's a lot of assumptions or suggestions made. And I don't want them to hear the message of what their preconceived notions are or stereotypes are be. So there's more questions behind the question than do you believe in God? Do you claim to be a Christian? Who do you believe this Jesus got to be? There's a lot of messages flying around. A lot of them I don't agree with. So there's other questions. I like it that Jesus answered questions with questions because he wanted to get behind what the original question being asked and go deeper. And I feel like I need to do that when people ask me what seems to be a clear-cut answer, yes or no. No, it's a little more nuanced. We need more context here.
Yeah. Well, and even that I struggle with, because I would like to just say, well, I don't believe in the God that you're talking about, or I'm not that kind of Christian. And I think I can say that somewhat honestly, but I do get a problem when we do some of this and act like, oh, those other people aren't Christians, or your concerns about God aren't legit, because there's a history that if I'm going to call myself Christian, I got to wrestle with that history. If I say I believe in God, I can't just wave it away and go, oh, I don't mean that God. I still have to wrestle with, well, why don't I mean that God? So I don't want to just say those are bad questions either. or those concerns you have about Christianity and God are wrong because I'm not that kind of Christian. I don't believe that kind of God. They're still legit concerns. I don't know. I just feel like I can't just wave it away, but I also can't identify with that either.
At camp this past week, I had a God question box. And so students could write questions and put them in there, and then we'd read them and try to answer them. And we kind of joked, Pastor Allie and I were taking turns answering the questions, and I'd hand her a question, and they're not yes or no answers, but she would go, short answer, yes, long answer, and then point to me. I'm like, oh, okay. And then when I had a question, I'd be short answer, no, long answer, point to Allie, go for it. And so it's like, you feel like there's more behind it. It's not just yes or no. And it's complicated. It's hard. And Jesus operated that way too. And these start off right off strong of, have a heart full of questions. You have permission to ask questions. And what does it mean to be Christian? And then, am I right? Am I wrong? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the I'm feeling foolish thing. Like, I just feel like so many people are in the same boat as me, and maybe in a more intense way where, it makes you feel foolish when you grew up buying this whole thing of like, we don't support Democrats because Clinton was sexually promiscuous. And then you see what's happening. You're like, well, man, I feel dumb for believing that stuff that you told me because you clearly don't believe it. Or we do what the Bible says no matter what. Okay, so that means helping our neighbor and feeding the hungry. Oh, no, that's woke. And like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people in the boat with me who can listen to this song and go, yeah, I was a youth pastor once, or I did this once. And we go to theology boot camp. We have a lot of people who used to be employed by the church, and it's almost like we end up now we do disagree with the church, but a lot of us didn't leave because of our disagreements. We left because we believed what they told us.
Yeah.
And it turns out they didn't believe it.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go ahead and jump to our
liturgy
verse section here, and then we'll do verse 2 after that.
Okay. Here's the next lines that we're going to go back and forth for. Coming to you because I'm confused.
Coming to you because I feel used.
Coming to weep while I'm waiting. Tell me you don't wait. Tell me you won't make me go.
I need to know there is justice. That this is both of us.
Okay. I need to know there's justice.
There's justice. That it will roll
in abundance.
And that you're building a city
where we
arrive as immigrants. And you call us citizens,
and you welcome
us as children home. Oh, yeah, might have been a little choppy, but that's how it works. That's how
liturgy works. Sometimes it's not supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
The work of the people.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and let's look at what verse 2 looks like. If I can remember which one of these are verse 2. Okay. Yeah, they're in order from here. Cool. All right. Verse 2 of Citizens with Jon Guerra.
And rejected, misunderstood and detested. You gave it all, didn't hold back. You even gave up your life. How can we call ourselves Christians, saying that love is a tension between the call of the cross and between the old party line?
All right.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. You want to lead us in this part?
Yeah, I like it that he asked the question of, am I hearing this message right? I call myself Christian. What does that mean? And then he goes to the source material, Jesus himself, and examines him in the Gospels and how he postured himself in the world. And he's seen what it means to be Christian from Christ himself. And so he's like, yeah, you are alone and rejected. You experienced these same feelings that I did. You were misunderstood. You gave up your life. You went to the cross. People question how you loved people. Wait, yeah, we're supposed to love people, but not that way, not that person, not that group. What do you mean you're going to change our system and threaten how we do things? We've not done it that way before. Wait a minute. And so the old party line is being challenged by the Christ. So I love how he comes back around, and yeah, he's not just throwing a question out there. He goes back to the source material and examines it for himself. He goes searching. He goes on a journey. And finds some answers.
Yeah. This might be a weird connection. And also, I don't know if this band is like bad or if they should be canceled from one side to the other. I don't know anything about the band. I just know I used to like the song a lot. King's Kaleidoscope has a song called "It's Just a Prayer," and it was right after the lead singer's, I think his son killed himself is what it was. And man, the reason it got me is it was the first time I think I heard a Christian song with swear words in it. And I'll censor it for this, But yeah, he's singing to God, and he's asking, he's like, if I fall or if I misstep, if I call you with my last breath, are you going to be there for me after? And he says, I'm wasting in the silence because my fear is effing violent. And like near the end, he's like, Jesus, where are you? And it gets to this part where Jesus is responding in the song. It's like, I'm right beside you. I feel what you feel. And that's what I'm getting out of this, is this moment of like, yeah, maybe the fear is effing violent. You know, I'm trying to keep this from being explicit because I want as many people to hear as possible. But sometimes the fear, because, you know, it's real. And yeah, Jesus felt it too. He was alone and rejected. I think that's what the song said, right?
Yeah.
Alone and rejected, misunderstood, detested, gave it all. I think that's one of the key ones too, is like he gave it all. Like it wasn't like, I think a lot of times we think of Jesus as really mild mannered and stuff because of like some of those cheesy Jesus videos. I'm like, no, this dude was like, sometimes he was mild mannered and chill, and sometimes he was like angry about like what people were doing in the temple, selling it out, and sometimes he was like, hey, I'm gonna be a sword between father and son, and sometimes he was like, guys, just love each other. Like, what are you doing? You know, like Jesus wasn't a one-dimensional character either.
Yeah, when he gave it all, you know, they even cast lots for his clothes. So like he didn't own property, he didn't own a lot, he had friends, and he had supporters, he had backers, he crowdsourced his movement. But then, you know, in terms of what he literally owned, he gave it all, even the shirt off his back. They cast lots and gambled for.
Yeah. And he's the king of nonviolent resistance, even into the point of death. And that's where I love that he brings this, like who Jesus was. And then he goes, how can we call ourselves Christians, saying that love is a tension between the call of the cross and between the old party line? And for Americans, it's funny because like he doesn't say Republicans. He doesn't, like, he's not calling it by name. But I don't think anyone in America today hears that line and doesn't know what he means.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And, you know, I had one of the questions in our God question box from our teenagers at camp last week. One of them was like, is it okay to skip a Jesus TikTok video? Like you just scroll. So the question was, do I need to watch every single Jesus TikTok? And I'm like, well, it depends on what they're trying to portray. If they're portraying Jesus right or not, or they're parodying him or whatever, no, you can skip it. If someone's not portraying who Jesus is, then skip it. Let's scroll on past. You don't need to pay attention or waste your energy on it. So I love that. Is it a sin to go past a Jesus TikTok video? Well, it depends. It depends.
Yeah. Sometimes they're not representing him that well anyway. But yeah. Also, maybe Jesus doesn't need clingy people. He might be fine. I think he'll be okay.
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm ready to go on to the next stuff because I'm excited for what's coming up. Do you have anything else you want to cover with this, or?
Yeah.
All right, then let's get into our verse reading. Coming to you for the mothers who are all running for cover.
There is a flood from their weeping. Tell me you won't make them go.
I need to know
there is justice.
There is justice, that it will roll in abundance.
And that
you're building a city where we arrive as immigrants, and you call us citizens, and you welcome us as children home.
Yeah, we did a little better there. Look at there.
Yeah.
I love the beginning. The first question was, tell me you won't make me go. And then this verse is, tell me you won't make them go.
Yeah.
So he's identifying in solidarity with those around him, not just himself.
Yeah. And I think it intentionally kind of shifts our focus throughout the song. Yeah. But all right, let's look at verse 3. I believe this is verse 3, and see what we got next.
There is a man with a family. He has a wife and a baby. He broke the law just to save them, working for $3 an hour. Truly you said we were equal. Everyone's heart is deceitful. Everyone born is illegal. One love is the law of the land.
All right. Oh, and that one line confused me at first.
Which one?
I want to say that the end was like, everyone born is illegal when love is the law of the land. I'm like, why wouldn't everybody be legal? We just let everybody in. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, God. If I believe this Jesus story, he didn't say, well, everybody's a God now. He says, I'm going to become man. And that's what love looks like. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to suffer with you. There isn't sinners out there. It's sinners like me. It's not, hey, these people are illegal. It's, well, if they're illegal, I am too.
If love is the law of the land, if love is the law of the land, then I'm going to see everyone in solidarity. Yeah. Everyone's going to be on the same playing field. We're all illegal together.
Skipping to the end of the verse, but that was the one that confused me at first. But now I'm like, oh.
I like the move and the movement of the song from me personally, looking inward, then I look outward to Jesus, the source material, and then I look outward beyond that to the person and my neighbor around me and seeing how the Jesus story, I'm using the Jesus story as the lens by which I view other people, not just the party line that's been given to me. I'm going to examine Jesus, and that's the frame. That's the hermeneutic. That's the lens of where I see the other out there, of the wife, the husband, who's working for lower than minimum wage. Everyone's heart is deceitful, but I look through it through the lens of Christ. I'm going to see things in a new way.
Yeah. Well, even looking at it through the lens of Jesus, it's interesting because I can see, if we ignore that, there's layers to this. I can just read, there's a man with a family, he has a wife and a baby, and he broke the law just to save them. And I can empathize with, oh, that's a man who wants to save his kids. But if I'm also looking through it with the lens of Jesus, and we're like, oh, well, he shouldn't have broke the law. Hey, guys, Jesus broke the law. In fact, a lot of Pharisees and Sadducees were pretty mad at him for it.
It's probably what got him killed.
And then the Romans killed him. Jesus broke the law. So we go through this, Jesus is our story, and then we go this, and I'm like, yeah, it's hard to follow that up with, oh, he shouldn't have broke the law after we just talked about Jesus breaking the law. Right? I don't know, that's difficult. Yeah. Oh man. Anything else stand out for you here, or how's this move you? Especially in our context, we talked a lot about Trump and everything now.
Yeah, it's just, of course, there's, I saw a meme being passed away of love your neighbor. Who is our neighbor? And then Jesus goes, probably one that think that you're probably the person you think that's not your neighbor or whatever. It's kind of the one that you're seeing as
whoever you didn't want me to say that.
Yeah. Whoever you didn't want me to say, that's it. So I think that we're all fault of that, whether it's me looking at people who didn't vote the way I did or don't see the world as I do. It's convicting. It's this song is prophetic in a way that it holds up to mirror to me as well.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. It is so frustrating because I know people like this who's breaking the law just to live, and I know people who say these terrible things about them, and it is just crazy to realize I've been on both sides of this argument at this point, and it's also challenging for me being more progressive now than I used to be. I still don't know if I would call myself progressive, and just seeing other people who do identify as progressive and how little love there is for those who don't see things the way that some of us do. And it's man, that's challenging too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. You want to go ahead and do this verse, the next chorus bit here?
Yeah. Let me just say the chorus we all say together is repetitive. And that's if it's going to be the main theme or the red thread through this thing, I think, and really take that to heart. I think not just say it or sing it, but look at the intentional words. But yeah, let's do the liturgy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Coming to you for the hungry, eating the scraps of this country.
Didn't you swear you would feed them? Tell me you won't make them go.
I need to know there is justice, that it will roll in abundance, and that you're building a city where we arrive as immigrants,
and you call
us citizens,
and you
welcome us as children home. All right, let's try to do verse 4. And verse 5 isn't a full verse, I feel like, so that'll be a little bit different here at the end too.
There's a wolf who is ranting all of the sheep. They're clapping, promising power and protection, claiming the Christ who is killed by common consensus. Everyone's screaming Barabbas, trading their God for a hero, forfeiting heaven for Rome.
Man, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good even feels like a weird word to say here. It's a challenging one.
Powerful.
Yeah. What do you want to say anything about this before we jump in? What?
No, I mean, it was written in 2020 when President people, who did vote for Trump and feel like there's justification for that, maybe have turned us off long before they get to this part. But really a wolf that is ranting and their sheep are clapping, this predatory nature of leaders who are really commodifying faith, who are leading blind sheep their way to really get in, power and privilege, all those things. And insert your least favorite politician with Wolf, right? But for me, I know who that represents, that, and who that icon is for me at this present age. But I guess there's debate and talking about, I don't think it's helpful in the dialogue or the debate or the conversation to say, well, but your guy did this. Well, you're like, as a competition of who's worse and make a list. I think we need to look at the overall systems in place that prey upon the sheep, or who the consensus is that say, we choose Barabbas, we choose Herod, we choose Lex Luthor rather than Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just hard not to think of Donald Trump in this, and what's going on with Alligator Alcatraz, and what's going on with people who are getting deported, and the Epstein files, and all the 5 million things he's doing to hurt people in our country. Going back to COVID, this 2020, people were clapping for him as he was causing people to not wear a mask and literally dying because of him. So many deaths because of one man. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's hard not to think of him.
And January 6th too. They chose Barabbas, who started a riot.
Yeah.
Rather than.
Yeah, it's ironic. This song was written before January 6th because this feels like a description of January 6th almost.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that would have been the following year, I guess. Man, yeah, I didn't think about that. But even without it being Donald Trump, which it is about that, I think. And if not, it's just, I don't think you can be a Christian in America today, understand the Bible, see what's going on in the world, and not see that. But the whole thing here, the first half, there's a wolf who's ranting, all the sheep are clapping and promising power and protection, claiming Christ who was killed. Maybe he just watched Star Wars and was like, oh yeah, this is how democracy dies, with thunderous applause. Mm-hmm. But, I'm thinking it doesn't have to be Trump. Democrats do something similar. I haven't seen it to the same degree, but like we're promising power and protection, claiming Jesus. That's most of our politicians. Or no, I'm going to protect your group, people who are like you, that are going to be protected, and you're going to be in charge now, and that's going to mean that this will happen, and everything will be great in our country, because now you have the power, and you have the protection, and that's what Jesus would have wanted. Politicians do that on both sides.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And people fall for it. They clap because, I want the power. I want that protection. And that's just never what Jesus was about, was getting more power and protecting our people. It was about sacrificing, giving up, helping others, empowering others.
Yeah, right around the assassination attempt on Trump, I remember somebody on our systematic ecology account, chimed in and on my own said, like, really? You believe like that God, or made a comment like God destined him saved his life. And I was like, do you really believe that? What about the other people who died? That was bad theology. And I was, hopped in there. What I thought was a good question. He's like, nope, I think God saved his life because he's going to save our country. And I'm like, from what? What are you saving it from? What are you saving it for? I was just like, there's more questions I have. There's one thing to say, he's going to save our country. From what? For who? Who does he look out for? Who do you think he really cares about? All those questions are there.
Yeah. And I think it's a little bit weird, this comparison, and maybe you'll help me unpack a little bit, but it's immediately comparing it to people screaming Barabbas, choosing to let Jesus die, because that situation wasn't them choosing some hero and protection over Jesus. They were choosing Barabbas, who was a criminal. Maybe they thought it would just appease the Romans if they let Jesus die. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something with part of the comparison.
Barabbas helped start a riot. He was a zealot. So, if they're choosing someone who's like a rebel against their oppressor, we'd rather have this guy who represents outright rebellion and violence against our oppressor rather than some rabbi who's preaching peace or about Samaritans or nonviolence or flipping over tables in the temple and talking about systemic change rather than what's going on with Rome. So that is interesting. I don't know what Barabbas's name means. We could look it up, but I think instead of choosing a criminal, but a criminal in whose eyes, Trump is saying, "Oh, Obama's a criminal. Arrest him because he blah blah blah." It's just a distracting thing at the moment. But yeah, we can say you're a criminal. That guy's a criminal. From whose eyes? Whose laws are they breaking? They're breaking Roman law, breaking Jewish law.
Yeah. Man, that's interesting. I think that would be an interesting, if that's what we're juxtaposing, that's actually really challenging too, because it's not saying the people who are for the wolf are the problem, the sole problem. It's the people choosing violence against their oppressors, whether that is someone promising protection from the last government because we don't like Democrats in office or Republicans in office or who was before, or, whatever. The choice is, are we choosing people who are fighting, physically fighting on the political realm, or are we choosing this nonviolent method of resistance that just cares about the other, the one, instead of the flock? Yeah. Man. And then forfeiting heaven for Rome. I was like, oh, that's good. Just a good line. I'm like, oh, I could almost get that tattooed on me.
Oh,
man. Yeah. All right. You want to do this last part of the chorus before we do the final little verse thing here?
Pressure's on. On. All right, here we go. Coming to you because I'm angry.
Coming to you because I'm guilty.
Coming to you because you've promised to leave the flock for the one.
I need to know there is justice. That it will roll in abundance. And that you're building a city
where
we arrive as immigrants.
And you call us
citizens.
And you
welcome us as children home. That one was pretty good. That was pretty good.
We did that.
Here we go. It's probably not actually a verse, but prelude, maybe prelude.
Refrain.
Yeah.
Is there a way to love always, living in enemy hallways? I don't know my foes from my friends. I don't know my friends anymore. Power has several prizes. Handcuffs can come in all sizes. Love has a million disguises. But winning is simply not one.
Man. Heavy end for heavy song. Heavy end. And I love that it doesn't go to the chorus again. That it drops. Winning is not one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Again, Jesus.
That one's rough, man.
Jesus math. That's powerful. And I love the bridge. And it just ends. It's a mic drop. It leaves you sitting with it. And well done.
Yeah. I just yeah. Sorry. It really is. It's so challenging. Is there a way to love always, living in enemy hallways? And I mean, I don't think no matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, if you're a red state or blue state, you're a red state, you might be surrounded by people who are hating the immigrants or filled with bigotry or, whatever. And you're like, oh, man, is there a way to love always living in this? Maybe you're in a blue state and you're like, man, people just, they don't care about, what other stuff, children, family values, something like that. And you're like, man, I live in this world, and how do I be a Christian living in enemy hallways? How do I love always? I don't know. And I like that he doesn't answer it, because sometimes we just need something that feels what we're feeling, so we know that we're not alone, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that whole I don't know my friends anymore. After this last election from 2.0, people were going like, wow, is this really a reason to, not be friends anymore? And I was just honest on somebody's post. It's like, look, dude, like if we're arguing about how much money NASA should get, I don't think that's going to break up our friendship. But if you're all openly supporting a guy who condemns or others or doesn't like a whole group of friends that I care about, then I'm going to question my friendship with you. If you don't care about my friends, if there's one of my friends who doesn't like 10 of my friends, then I'm going to question whether that person is a friend to me and to my other friends. So of course I'm going to question my loyalties, and we're seeing that in some of our families as well, not just friends, but families. And, it's causing more polarization through that. But I think that's a decent question and realization. I don't think I know my friends anymore. I have to reevaluate, reorient, and rethink who my friends really are if they support this dude or system.
Yeah. Well, I've been running a church unity podcast for many years now. And it is one of those where it's like, man, sometimes it's, I thought we were all working together for the same purpose of loving Jesus. And sometimes I'm not sure about that. And even sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure how many of these people who say their churches are actually care about doing the right thing. I mentioned that church earlier with what's going on with the sex scandals there in Greenville, and so many pastors and stuff were at the January 6th riot. There were pastors rioting against the Capitol, causing violence, like literal violence. Yeah, people I thought that were, good Christian I know my whole life are supporting someone who's a sex predator, likely a pedophile, seeming more and more all the time. Who still finding excuses for this guy to swear and just dehumanize others, even getting away from the Donald Trump stuff. I mean, so many Christians are talking about how, people who voted conservative at all, I just don't think any of them can be a Christian, and we shouldn't have to show them love or be decent humans to them. And I'm like, there's a difference to me in saying I don't want to associate with someone who thinks it's okay to support that guy, and saying I'm going to dehumanize these people because they supported someone who dehumanized those people. Then you're just perpetuating the problem. And I'm seeing that everywhere too. Mm-hmm. And it's, 100%. I don't know my friends anymore. And then those last 3 lines, or I guess 3.5, 4 lines. Power has several prizes. Handcuffs come in all sizes. Love has a million disguises, but winning is simply not one. That last one, I think I get, because that's just right up my utilitarian thing. Is like, love isn't, hey, what has the best outcome? When do I win? How do I get power? How do I make sure my people are protected? Yeah, that's not love. That's self-serving. But power has several prizes, all that stuff.
Nowhere you find in the Gospels where Jesus is saying him or her with the most toys wins. Go grab whatever you want. Winning is at all costs. In fact, he inverts that. He flips it. Is the last be first, the first be last. In fact, he's like, if you're a loser, there you go. Read the Beatitudes, read the Sermon on the Mount, and think about in terms of how Jesus postures himself and who he thinks the winners and losers are.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. Jesus never says fights for your rights. The closest you get is him telling you to fight for others. Maybe he wants you to fight for their rights. I don't think he cares so much about you fighting for your rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, for those who don't know or don't think about it often, Jesus lived in a world where Romans were really coming down hard on the Jewish people in Israel. Their religious liberty was at stake. One thing, that we like to talk about a lot in America is religious liberty, your right to believe what you want. And not once did Jesus show up and say, fight for your right to believe. Nope. That's just not something he seemed to care that much about.
Yeah. I think there's a little story about a soldier getting his ear cut off and Jesus put your swords away.
Yeah. Which is my favorite part of that story that everybody seems to ignore. This is one of my pet peeves when pastors talk about this story and ignore why did Peter have the sword? Jesus had him pick the sword up. Jesus intentionally had his disciples pick up swords so that they could choose to defend themselves, just to show that it was a choice not to defend themselves. It's like, we're going to have weapons just to show that we're not going to use them. God, it was just fun. Sorry. I'm just a Bible geek. Sometimes I'm like, I love the Bible. It's so good.
It is. Good
story. Yeah. But yeah, the chorus, we never went over chorus. I did that intentionally because I wanted to get through these verses and looking at the stories that he's telling through the song. But this chorus is a need to, we talked about part of it, but the part that we haven't really spoke about, that we've been quoting this whole time and affirming together, I need to know there's justice, that it will roll in abundance, that you're building a city where we arrive as immigrants, you call us citizens, and you welcome us as children home. Will, what are your reflections on that?
Well, I think of Amos, the prophet Amos, let justice roll down. And that's definitely what he's alluding to. There's a prophetic word here, as we talked about at the beginning, the context of this. And again, prophecy, prophetic word isn't necessarily fortune telling or saying that Russia is going to invade America in the last times and we are raptured. That's not it. It is holding up a mirror and speaking to our present context with God's word and calling us to be God's people and to change and to revealing the systems in place that are undermining or commodifying God. And so I think here, let justice roll down. It will roll in abundance. There's a statement of faith there. I need to know that there is justice, that it will roll in abundance. Like, help me know this, that there's not just nihilism, that the person with the most toys and powers wins, that there is justice at the end of the day. Help me understand you're building a city that doesn't look like the one that is being envisioned by those in power.
Yeah. It's thinking about that justice in context of each verse too. And at first it's I feel confused. All these people, they told me this is what the message was. And now I'm like, did I ever hear it right? I need to know there's justice. This family, these people, mothers who are crying for their children, father who's trying to just do something for his family, and he has to break the law to do it. I need to know there's justice. Yeah. These people the sheep are cheering on the wolf. I need to know there's justice. And it's just one of those like, oh, yeah, man, that word justice it can mean a lot of things. Doesn't always mean punishment, right? Sometimes in this case, we're looking at that restorative justice and we're like, man, what does it mean for those sheep who are cheering on the wolf? What does it mean for them to have justice? What does it mean for that dad who's breaking the law just because he wants to support his family? What does justice actually look like? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's similar, like words matter. And so people, before you go into some deep discussions about God and love and Jesus and Christianity and church, science, you need to define some terms and have some common ground of what you mean by when you say those words. And the justice is another one of those words. You can't just throw it out there and assume that everybody knows what that means. And so I think there is room to ask, what does justice mean? What does it look like? Is it punitive? Is it restorative? Is it revenge based? Is it to bring wholeness to the world? Is it God's justice? Is it man's justice? I think all that there's room, but it is hard to have civil conversations when a whole group or a side of people dehumanize a whole other side. And that goes for either side. And I think we can have discussions, we can have debates. I loved it. Like, what was so crazy and revealing about this last election is when the two vice president candidates got on there and they talked like normal human beings, like, wow, look at this. There's actually human beings that are talking to each other. I'm like, yes, we can have that. Why are we doing this the other way? Why are you backing the guy who doesn't operate that way? I don't care if JD Vance is a means to an end that maybe one day he could do next time or whatever. I don't care. He's selling out to somebody else. And so, yeah, we could have better. We've had better. How do we do this next is a big lingering question. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is easy to pick on one side now because they're following Donald Trump and he's just such a clearly evil man. And I'm not going to do whataboutism. I think that is the worst side. But I will say for a long time, part of the reason people are supporting him is because they were treated as, these rednecks. And you even hear in like young culture today, it's like, oh, that guy's so Republican. And they just mean by like what he looks like. That's all they're talking about. And belittling it. It's like, oh, I can't do that. That's like Republican. And like, yeah, you talk down to people like that all the time. And guess what? They're going to lash out. And sometimes it looks scary and terrifying. And it's probably because the people you lashed out on against were scared and terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah. They thought they were losing their way of life. And that's scary. So I don't think justice necessarily looks like punishing everybody, but yeah. Yeah. Even the last part, the part of, and again, I mentioned earlier, my eschatology, I'm not sure that afterlife stuff I'm iffy about. I'm hopeful, but I'm iffy about it. It's not the most important thing to me, so I just don't feel too solid about it. But I think if we remember that we are now the body of Christ, supposedly building the kingdom of heaven right now, that part of like you're building a city where we arrive as immigrants, you call us citizens and you welcome us as children home, kind of has a dual meaning. And that's crazy, right? Like, are we seeing the people who?
Well, yeah, that's the chorus. The citizens is the name of the song. So it's like, what does it mean to be a citizen, a good citizen?
We call them citizen when they arrive as immigrants, just as we think, whether you believe in an afterlife or not, the story is we come to God as people who don't necessarily belong, who maybe have fallen away, or if you believe they're born in sin, cool. If not, I think everybody has sinned. I know the things I've done. And when I come to God, I'm not coming to him as someone who's been righteous all the time, who is the Son of God. I'm coming to him as maybe a little bit of a foreigner to God's ways. And I'm thankful that every day he seems to look at me and go, as an immigrant, he looks at me and says, I'm going to call you a citizen. And he welcomes me back as a child, no matter how many times I mess up and all the other stupid stuff I do, where maybe I go away from God's ways. And are we building that city on earth that's like that? I don't know. The other thing this makes me think of, isn't it? It's ironic because yesterday we talked about my mom's dad, Papa, on a podcast we did for Systematic Ecology. Today I'm going to talk about Pepa, my dad's dad. and it's really that whole side of the family is what this course really makes me think of. And that's why the one time I just started crying listening to this, because I think about my grandpa on his side, on that side, lived out in the middle of Kentucky. So my mom's side from the Appalachians, other side from the hills of Kentucky. And somehow I did not turn out how you might expect, but it's fine. But he's, the hills of Kentucky, all this stuff. And I would just keep bringing friends when we came for the summer or Christmas or whatever, who maybe didn't have other places to go. And, my friend Chama, I had friends who were queer. I brought friends who were of different ethnicities. I brought friends who were different genders, all kinds of stuff. And my grandpa didn't care. He loved all of them. And the funniest part to me about him is he would call and ask about them. He'd send them letters, even if he just met them once, up till the day he died. And it's so funny because, like, even people that I thought for a long time were actually related to me, they weren't. He just called them family anyway. We just had so many people that are just so close knit. And it's because anyone he met, he was like, okay, well, we're family now. And that's cool.
Yeah.
And
blood family, found family, discovered family. Yeah.
And that's the image I see with this of, like, are we building a city where I don't necessarily care what gender, race, ethnicity, sexuality you're coming to with me on. I'm just welcoming you as a family, as a child. Or are we trying to other and say who belongs, who doesn't belong? And, like, what kind of game are we playing here? And the idea of, like, whether you believe there's this real heaven out there or, shout out to my more OrtCon kind of friends. Maybe you think that after we pass, we just become part of the divine consciousness. My grandpa would be part of that. And that's this, are we building that city where we are welcoming everybody as children coming home? I don't know. Any final thoughts, Will?
Oh, man, you said that well. Good. I don't want to add on to that. That's good. Coming home.
Yeah.
If we're coming home to God and that's our destiny, and that's where God is drawing us in with God's gravitational pull of grace and love and mercy, then and how are we contributing to that, what that home looks like here and now, not just way off in the distance. It matters. What we do now matters. Your matter matters, Joshua.
I like that. Your matter matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just be welcoming. I think that's probably the main thrust of the song is just, like, be welcoming, be loving. It doesn't have to be about, we don't have to stop arguing with each other. We don't have to stop any of this other stuff. Just welcome people in. I feel like it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
All right, then. With that, we'll go ahead and start wrapping this up. I mentioned, I think I am going to soon do, like, a pirate music episode and just talk about pirate music or songs about pirates and probably have fun with that. I don't know what else might be in the works. As we mentioned, the show doesn't really have a plan or schedule, anything like that, really. It just kind of happens.
Hey, I'm going to a concert tonight with Hannah. We're going to Cyndi Lauper from the 80s. Girls just want to have fun, Joshua. Girls just want to. Yeah. I might get on here and talk about that. She did a song for Goonies. She did all kinds of stuff. I'm ready. Maybe I'll do a Cyndi Lauper podcast.
I'm trying to remember what was the Weird Al version. Girls just want to have lunch. That's what it was. Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe she'll do that cover.
Squirrels just want to have fun.
But anyway, guys, yeah. So we don't know what's planned. If you guys want to host an episode, let us know. Anyone can host. It's not just the elite. Anybody can host an episode. If you guys want to do an episode of Some Joyful Noises, emails in the description. Let us know. We would love to host an episode of you talking about your favorite music. Also, remember, rate, review, share this wherever you can. Subscribe, because we don't know when episodes release. There is no schedule. So if you don't subscribe, you won't know, because we don't know when episodes come out. And we hope you all can just join us as we continue to find more music to sing along to, maybe do liturgy with. And just to continue making some joyful noises together. Until next time.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Some Joyful Noises, a proud member of the Anazal Podcast Network. Listen to other Anazal podcasts with the link that's down in the description of this episode. If you have ideas for this show, or would like to lead one of these episodes and create your own episode of Some Joyful Noises, then you can do so by letting us know through email at anazalministriespodcast@gmail.com, or by joining our Facebook group, Some Joyful Noises, or you can also join our Discord. Links for all of those are in the description of this episode down below. Thank you for listening.